but not broken, with host Patrick Scroggin. As a U.S. Army attack helicopter pilot deployed in Iraq, Patrick faced a devastating crash, which resulted in him dying, losing a leg, and a slew of broken bones. Patrick's story of rehabilitation has helped others to overcome their own obstacles. Each week, Patrick recounts stories of inspiration and interviews guests who have overcome remarkable obstacles. This is Wounded But Not Broken, with your host, Patrick Scroggin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wounded But Not Broken on another wonderful Monday night. That's that dreadful Monday everybody's getting over. We got through it, and now it's on through the rest of the week. Got a quick story, a funny story to tell. I know everybody that listens knows I'm a big hunter, and I love to hunt. And I say it all the time. It's not about the killing. It's about the experience with friends and family and the sights and sounds that you see. And so this weekend was really comical, in my opinion. Not very often can I get my brother and my nephews and everybody together. So my brother Chris, Garrett and Austin, my nephews, and Colin, we went on a hunt in Arkansas. It was a duck hunt for veterans. And Colin was driving a boat, and it was his brother's boat, and the motor came off of the boat and sunk in the slough, and we had to go swimming to pick it up. And the whole hunt, we didn't fire a shot on the whole hunt, but it was just, that made the trip. It was great, memorable. We all had a great time, and giving Colin crap because his brother was gonna kill him. So he was scared the entire time. But we got through it. It was fun, and I decided I'd share that with you. But tonight we have a great guest for the show. Very inspirational guy. Guy that's been through a lot, still going through a lot, as we all are. And he tackles it day by day and keeps his chin up and just kind of powers through it. And tonight we have on Brian Meyer. Brian, you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit, get started with your story?
For sure. It's an honor to be here. I really appreciate this opportunity. My name's Brian Meyer. I was a Gunnery Sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. For the last half of my career, I served in the capacity of an EOD technician, which is basically a military version of a bomb tech. That was really the defining moment in my career and also continues to be in my life. Before that, I was a radar technician and really kind of was just figuring out my life, and then was a primary marksmanship instructor. So I had these kind of, skill sets before I became a bomb tech, one being a marksmanship instructor and then one being a kind of a technical guy. So, found bomb disposal, and it really defined me in a lot of capacities. I really was looking for what bomb disposal was as far as like in my military service. So I joined right before 2001. I joined in 2000. And then, I remember sitting in A school in Pensacola in a radar technician school, and 9/11 happened, and it was like, oh, here we go. We're going to war, And I got stationed in Hawaii after I got through radar technician school, and was trying to get out to Iraq and Afghanistan ever since the get-go. And there's just no way for my MOS. And bomb disposal was in big demand, and they had they welcomed me with open arms. And I got to there. I got basically screened initially, and then they sent me to Niceville, Florida, where I currently reside, which is where Nav School EOD is. It's a Navy school on an Air Force base that all 5 branches of the military attend to go to basically be qualified as basic EOD technicians, and then we kind of go on to follow-on schools through that. But we share this common thread, and it's a cool thing. So. And it's also really cool to be living here, because I see the bomb disposal guys and the bomb disposal students, and you hear the explosions. We're in one of like the biggest test ranges in this area of the country for large ordnance and things like that. So,
gotcha. How long is that school?
That school, if you can make it through one shot, which few people can do that. A lot of people have to retake a certain division. It's right around 9 months, I think. So I think I got it done in about 11. I had to do one division twice. So
yeah, I'm sure that's very
typical.
intricate and detailed. I'm sure there's a lot of very intricate and detailed. I mean, when you're disarming bombs and disposing of bombs, I mean that's kind of a little bit of a dangerous job, I guess.
It's a unique school. Everything's one-on-one, so it's like they're watching you. Your test. You're not taking a test where you're filling in A, B, and C. You're out on basically an inert item, and then they're judging you based on how you're conducting yourself, to like mitigate the situation. And it's one-on-one, and it's really easy to fail your test and not even know it. So.
Right. Wow. So.
But from there on out. Yep. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, so graduated that and then got to Japan. I got stationed in Japan initially. And then my first deployment was in 2006, I believe, to Iraq, Fallujah, Iraq. It was kind of like a tail end of a really hot time in Iraq. We actually got to see a transition from the IEDs, the improvised explosive devices, transitioning from a military grade explosive that has sort of been modified to be set off by different means of initiation, if you will, to they were running out of that military ordnance because we were effectively destroying their stockpile, to homemade explosives and large jugs filled with, rocket fuel or, whatever they concocted at the time. So it was a really interesting time. And then I saw from everything from very small IEDs, pipe bombs type stuff, to IEDs that are the equivalent that took down the Oklahoma City in the Oklahoma City bombing. So IEDs that were even larger than that bomb. So a vehicle-borne IEDs. So it's a really good time. I mean, you frame that in the context of as a bomb tech and being able to take apart the full spectrum of IEDs. The only thing I never took apart was an improvised rocket launcher, and I'm still that's the only card I don't have in my hat, But
so what was it like? Yeah. What was it like on that first IED that you walked up to disarm or whatever it was? What was going through your mind? I couldn't imagine.
So so it's interesting that you say walked up on. So the first IED I ever walked up on wasn't ever in Iraq. So we had robots and awesome vehicles and all sorts of remote means to approach these IEDs. And that was our first and foremost goal. It was we're preserving life and protecting property, and we're also doing that by remote means. And in Iraq we had phenomenal robots and huge the MRAPs, and so I never walked up on an IED until I was in Afghanistan. And in Afghanistan we didn't have the ability to drive the vehicles that we had in Iraq because they would just sink to their axles. It was all farmland. We all were basically, walking around everywhere with whatever we could carry on our backs for basically a day, potentially a day and a half, because sometimes we got stuck out there and we had to spend the night somewhere. One time, but so the first time I ever walked up on one, that it's super exciting. Honestly, it's you've heard these stories from your friends. They're all bomb techs. They've come before you, your mentors. And then when it actually happens to you, you realize, it's sort of you've you've walked this rite of passage, and today is your gift. Do you know what I mean? And it's
yeah, right.
So it's super special, man. I'll never forget it. Well, you don't have to, that's one of the things too, man. A lot of guys.
Well, you want to. You
want to be tested, but at the same time, watch out what you wish for, right? Because it's you might find that IED in a different capacity. You know what I mean? So, you're careful about that kind of thing. There's places you could definitely go to find bombs, and you have no reason to go there. So why are you going to go there? So, but anyway.
Right. Sorry to make you jump forward. So go back to Iraq and finish that up. Did you have any exciting things there, or did anything really pop out, or was it just kind of standard? And I mean, you said you came down there on
No, nothing standard about Iraq. Actually, so I had sort of a EOD tech's dream in Iraq. I had a phenomenal leader. I was not a team leader at the time. I was just a robot operator. initially, and then I became a demo guy. And that was sort of our two positions before you became a team leader. And a team leader, you basically have 2 to 3 man teams in EOD, and you get farmed out to all these different units. So I had a really amazing tour. I had an amazing mentor. So from there, though, I was slotted for a team leadership, and then I was a team leader in my first deployment to Iraq. I was a team leader. It was super quiet, nothing there. Really doing a lot of disposals and whatnot, but still had a great experience, actually sort of like almost like I had training wheels, you know what I mean, where it was like the working environment was very conducive to a new leader. So I was really fortunate there. And then I got deployed October 2010 to Afghanistan, and that was like game on. I had actually, through the training package, requested to my commanding officer that was going to be commanding me out there in Afghanistan that, because he was witnessing all of our training, I was like, sir, if I have the opportunity to be in like that really dangerous area and you need to pick a guy for that, like I'm telling you right now, you can pick me if you think, I'm proving myself in training, you know what I mean? Like, don't hesitate on being like, well, Brian asked for it, so I'm going to give it to him. So I had a good conversation with him, actually, over a practice IED about that, and I could tell, he was like, oh, I'm going to, all right. Oh, all right, Brian. Noted, And I got to go to Stangan, Afghanistan, when I initially was on a forward operating base, NOLE, and I was taken over for the Brits. The brace was being taken over from them, and the Brits affectionately called NOLE, no legs. And that was the standard deal. So the bombs in the area would take your legs off, and it was always funny because I'd watch guys be working out, and I was like, "Is it legs day, boy?" Because I was like, to be walking out there, I was like, I would skip legs the entire deployment. It's like you might as well just work upper body. It's like you get your legs blown off, it's like complete waste of time, boys. So, and that was so funny because I did meet a lot of guys. They would laugh as they were doing their squats and be like, "Shut the hell up," doing their squats, and then later on I'd see them and both the legs were gone, and I was like, I told you so, and they were like, oh, you goofy son of a gun, oh, you did get me. So
I bet that's what they
a lot of a lot of unique humor. So, but Afghanistan was by far my favorite deployment, even though that's where I eventually was wounded. March 2011. March 14, 2011, I was taking apart an IED, and because we didn't have the robots and things like that we had in Iraq, I was taking it apart. We utilized hook and line techniques, and without getting into the, super technical aspects of it, I mean, it's just basically a rope with like seatbelt cutters and clamps and things like that, and you basically are, whatever you're doing, if you're cutting a wire, you're trying to remotely remove something from its emplacement, basically, is the name of the game. So I was remotely removing this bomb from its emplacement, and we were close enough, and you operate in a minefield where we were in Afghanistan, so we're always on a clear path. We're not wandering around. We're trying to minimize our footprint. And where we were, we didn't have a whole lot of cover, so we were down low. So it was like I had like 100 yards of line, and we would all get down low and just like start pulling, like everybody be aware of what was going on. Because a number of times in Afghanistan before this point, stuff had blown up at the end of my line. Or it was like, the boys, this may go off, and then we're just pulling, and all of a sudden, boom, we get rocked. So, and then in one instance, there was just it was basically booby-trapped these things, basically is what I'm getting at. So in this instance, no big explosion goes off. We're all like, okay, cool. I go back down there. It looks like this bomb has basically been pulled out of its emplacement, it's fallen back down. And then when I go to grab it, it goes off. And it results in the amputation of my right hand, my right leg above the knee, and then initially just my thumb index, and then breaks the crap out of my middle finger. But later on they revised the amputation to include my middle finger. So I just basically have my pinky, my ring finger on my strong hand, I call it, on my left side. And then I got a strong leg because I was on my knee, and this leg was basically under me when that bomb went off. So, all things being considered, I mean, as especially being a guy who conducted a lot of the post-blast analysis. I thought, I'd lost all 4 limbs. I couldn't assess myself. I was very much awake. I remember a lot. In fact, as I hang out with the buddies that were there that, were putting up tourniquets on and I was on my team at the time, the memories get a lot more vivid, but, when I'm away from them, it's like, the volume is turned down a little bit. So, obviously, I remember.
They probably kind of help you fill in the blanks, right? The stuff that you don't remember.
Well, they just were in a completely different headspace too, right? So I was like,
for
on the verge of shock, like bleeding out and shit. Whereas they were, oh my gosh, my team leaders got blown up, and then we had another bomb to take care of after that. So basically, what they were going to do is they were going to put me on the chopper, and then they were going to go take apart another IED before they came home. And we had extensive reporting requirements. So it was like, we got to get this, our team leader got blown up, oh shit, and it was going to be a couple of days before they could get another guy out in the capacity of leadership. So they were going to be operating on their own. So I was fortunate.
Right.
It was the close to end deployment, so it worked out.
Yeah. All right, man. Hey, we're going to take a break here for some word from our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to hear the aftermath of this blast a little bit more in detail, but here's a word from our sponsors.
So put your weapon next to mine. Put your weapon next to mine.
You're listening to Wounded But Not Broken with host Patrick Scroggin. We will be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Hey, right on down the line. Come on over. Come on over. What's that over?
Dallas Corporation and Dallas Logistics, a proud supporter of the Veterans Broadcast Network for over 19 years. High-quality printing services and warehouse distribution has been our hallmark since 1985, serving Fortune 100 companies for over 35 years. Check us out at www.dallascorp.com.
My father was the best truck driver I've ever known in my life. Like a family tradition.
I'm a truck driver myself. I drove around the state with my cat.
To be the truck driver, you not just only see where you go, you see the world in the larger perspective.
This is a really good time to be in the trucking industry. The dispatchers get good loads for them. The equipment is very new, and then it's very reliable.
At GTS Transportation, we make dreams come true by employing truck drivers, dispatchers, mechanics, and many other occupations. Consider joining our rapidly expanding team where we put quality, human dignity, and respect back into the workforce. Contact us by visiting our website at gtscarrier.com or call us at 847-754-4667. That number again, 847-754-4667.
Welcome back to Wounded But Not Broken with host Patrick Scroggin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Wounded But Not Broken. And we are here with Brian Meyer. And he was talking about he had just gotten blown up. And I just have a specific question before it slips my mind. So, Brian, there's a pretty famous picture of you out there after you had gotten blown up with a giant smile on your face. You got to explain that to me.
Yeah. So we had been experiencing a lot of casualties within my my military occupational specialty, my MOS, specifically the bomb disposal community. A lot of people were getting dismembered and were completely, giving the ultimate sacrifice and dying on the battlefield. So, and along with that, because those were my brothers, you see these guys that struggle with survivor's guilt, like, oh, it should have been me, it should have been them, trying to, like, I don't know, they're not coping well, basically, right? So my idea was, and this was before we even started operating in Afghanistan, was like, hey, boys, I was once again in a team leader capacity. I was like, I got this idea. I was like, if we get blown up, that we do our best. If the situation permits, don't risk your life, obviously, for a photo. But, being situationally aware, if you could we'll do our best to take a picture if the situation permits, with a big smile on our face of like whatever condition we're in, if we get shot, if we get blown up, or whatever. And that would basically be something where later on they get medevaced off the battlefield, or if they die even there, you can just look back on that photo and say, hey, they knew what they were getting themselves into, or all voluntary, force with inside and a voluntary force. We can quit at any time. There's a unique option within my MOS. And then, that was the whole idea. We'd vindicate survivor's guilt, because people would be looking back at the photo and be like, goofy, son of a gun. He was smiling, you know what I mean? So, actually, throughout my deployment in Afghanistan, I was the last guy to be wounded. I had 2 other team leaders before me be wounded, and then I actually picked up a member of my team that also, his team leader got wounded. So, once again, I was in an extremely, dangerous area where there was a really high turnover rate. We kind of had this little pact, and on it, I've got two other team members where I have we call them happy snaps. So I got their happy snaps, and then I was the third guy, out of the 5-man total that cycled through my team, and then we were a 3-man team initially. So, but somebody get wounded, we get another guy. But somebody get wounded, we get another guy. So, and then when I got wounded, the guy that took over my platoon, my 2 guys actually gave me one of the best compliments ever, saying like, man, I didn't have to do anything. Your guys were already good at operating basically completely on their own. And I was like, ha, that's like the best compliment you can get as a leader, to have your guys be able to, step into your position without any problem.
Right.
So from there on out, I actually have an extreme recovery. So from getting blown up, I am outpatient in San Diego about 30 days later, and really never. I have some revisions throughout my recovery just to clean some stuff out or whatever, but I never am really inpatient again. So I recover in about a month. And that's basically losing my leg above the knee, my right hand, and my thumb, index, and middle finger on my left hand. And then, back to life.
Gotcha. So in that recovery process, that's pretty amazing. I mean, only a month with your injuries, because you're one below the knee, one above the knee, you're missing an arm,
nope, one above the knee. I'm missing my right hand and thumb, index, and middle finger, and I got a strong right leg. I'm sorry, left.
Oh,
leg.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
But your left hand, right, is the one that you're missing all the fingers on.
Yeah, all the important fingers.
Right. So, but
yeah.
that's a pretty damn amazing recovery time. A month. I mean,
yeah.
How many surgeries have you had?
No clue, honestly. I mean, it was kind of a blur. I mean, I enjoyed my. I mean, I was just happy to be there. I was pretty sure I was going to just die on the battlefield before I got wounded, right? So, and I'd been shot before I'd been wounded. So I actually been shot in the plate. So I got shot and I didn't even get a bruise. So it's like the perfect story. You know what I mean? Where it's like, how lucky am I? But there was actually a thing where it's like guys would get shot in the plate and then they would get blown up, and then I also fit that scenario. So it was like, oh, maybe I should have paid attention to the prophecy a little closer. But anyway, yeah, no. So I forget what I was going. But yeah, super fast recovery, and then one of the things that really focused me in my recovery was hunting, actually. Wounded Warrior Outdoors, the founder being Ron Rabu, he had this at the time. It was coming out of it came out of initially Bethesda, Walter Reed, and then it was also out of Balboa, out of San Diego, California. He was taking guys out on a bear hunt, and I remember people asking me at the hospital because I was a fairly decent patient. I had a good attitude, and I was recovering fast. And they were like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to go on a spare hunt. So I get an opportunity, and coincidentally, on the spare hunt, I was on there with a good buddy of mine, Matt Amos, and we actually were hunting for the biggest bear, and I got the biggest bear. I have to admit, I got the buckle on that one. I have to always rub it in Matt's face, that he could have hunted a little bit better. And but I out-hunted him, and he's a wasted hands because he's got both hands. Granted, he's missing some legs, but it's important to remind people when they're a wasted hands. Yeah.
I had Matt on the show a few weeks ago. I was gonna once I get moved up to Chicago and get settled, I was gonna have a bunch of you all call in and we just have like a round table and talk about Wounded Warrior Outdoors and how great it is and what it does for people. I mean, that would take we could probably spend 3 hours telling some stories on that. I mean that's how I met you.
Oh my gosh.
And so
for sure. Yeah. So Wounded Warrior Outdoors is a phenomenal facet.
I want to sort of step back a little bit to your recovery process. So like once you were out, like your physical therapy, because that had to be, my physical therapy, I'm missing a leg, and that was pretty extensive enough to get to, being operational again with all the nerve damage and stuff. So I'm just wondering, like, what was your thought process? Where were you at mentally when you started trying to get back up on your feet?
So one of the interestingly comforting facets of being a bomb technician is being really familiar with I could do the post-blast of an IED explosion more accurately based on the injuries. They told me, hey, above the knee, below the knee, one above, one below, hand, blah, 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 blah. I could tell easier there, like, what the bomb consisted of and whatnot, as opposed to, like, doing my measurements on the crater or trying to like extrapolate things, right? So one of the things was because things were so consistent over there, you basically had these people in a pipeline ahead of you in a strange way of recovery. So it was like, man, that guy stepped on the same bomb that you stepped on, or was taking apart the same bomb you were taking apart, and he did this in he did it in 2 months, and he was back in his prosthetic and like he was winning golf tournaments. So you coming behind him would be like, well, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to shave a couple of weeks off of that, So you had all of these
it's a competition.
You had all of these like mentors. So that was another interesting facet in my recovery was I wasn't by myself in any way, shape, or form. Like I was surrounded by people who were 1 month out, 2 months out, 3 months out, 4 months out, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way out to a year and 2 years out. So now you could just kind of look ahead and be like, okay, I see where that guy's at. And they said he was good. Well, I'm going to work a little bit harder just so I can beat him, And that sort of aspect of competition and camaraderie, really focuses you on your recovery. And you get guys that are now recovering in record time because, they can see guys that are just 2 months out and they're like, I want to be better than him at 2 months out. And it's just like, whoa, man, your stitches aren't even out yet. You know what I mean? And they're still like, they're on fire. They have perfect purpose in their recovery in a lot of ways.
Right.
So
and that's how I was.
Where it drops off.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
And where it drops off is like when... Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say it's like a new sense of motivation for you. I mean, you look down, you see what's gone, you see how bad you're messed up, and it's either, drop down into a sulking hole and get sad and depressed and not live your life to the fullest, or be a man up and bust your ass and get tip-top shape and go with it, and that's kind of how I approached it. But I really didn't have anybody with me, but.
Yeah, that's rough, man. So that's a completely different animal in my opinion. So I don't know where I would be without, the continuum of wounded. That I was just basically one little, person in a lineup.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't think anybody challenges me more than me. And so I think I'm always my biggest critic, and I always push myself and I want to beat myself in a sense. And so it's just easier for me that way. But so I mean, your recovery is amazing. I didn't know that. I mean, that's crazy. So, at what point do you think you were functional again? Where you could go on your own to day-to-day life,
like driving and basically day-to-day like hygiene and all of that stuff. Probably like a 5-month. The 5-month mark, I was already driving by myself, as a triple amputee, and back to being completely independent now. Not nearly as strong as I am today. I'm definitely a lot stronger, but functionally, I would say 5 months. 5 months.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know how strong you are today, and you're strong. You're that strong for a reason. You've been through a lot of shit, even after that, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. I do have one question for you, though. So, have they worked on any kind of technology that will replace? I know you talked about robots, and that's great. You can use them like when you're on hard surfaces. But if you're on foot, have they worked on any kind of technology that you can carry with you that'll kind of take your hands off the bomb so this won't happen, or is it just something that they can't come up with?
No, they totally can't come up with it. It is just a function of the technology trying to meet the demand and the demand shifting. So we had manned portable robots it was really the key to a robot is you need to have it. And in my opinion, at the time, and my window of operation is limited, and there's a shelf life also on this operational stuff. But at the time, you needed to have a robot that weighed around 120 pounds. So when you grabbed on something and backed up, you had the weight to be able to pull whatever you needed to pull out of the ground or destroy it, rip it apart, And then you can have a highly functional robot, but if it didn't have the weight that it needed, you were just, you were limited, because now even like your charges, they weighed. So we would bring charges down to IEDs with our robots, and the charges by nature weighed a certain amount, and if you had a perfectly capable robot, but it only weighed 5 pounds, and your charge is 2.5 pounds, and now you're railing out line behind it, and now it's got drag. It's just it turns into a fiasco. So there's kind of like a fine line between getting stuff as light as possible, because they can do phenomenally light things, but we need to move heavy objects, so we need heavy robots. So it's kind of that dynamic where they would play that dynamic. And it was fun. It was fun to be a part of that, by the way, because the evolution of our robots under my very limited, short service, I watched them evolve a lot, and it was really cool to watch that happen. So
I got you, man. All right, hey, we're going to break again for a word from our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to continue on with Brian and his journey to recovery. We'll be right back.
Put your weapon next to mine. Put your weapon next to mine.
You're listening to Wounded But Not Broken with host Patrick Scroggin. We will be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Hey, right on down the line. Come on over. Come on over. What's that over?
Dallas Corporation and Dallas Logistics, a proud supporter of the Veterans Broadcast Network for over 19 years. High-quality printing services and warehouse distribution has been our hallmark since 1985, serving Fortune 100 companies for over 35 years. Check us out at www.dallascorp.com.
My father was the best truck driver I've ever known in my life, like a family tradition.
I'm a truck driver myself. I drove around the state with my cat.
To be the truck driver, you not just only see where you go, you see the world in the larger perspective.
This is a really good time to be in the trucking industry. The dispatchers get good loads for them. The equipment is very new, and then it's very reliable.
At GTS Transportation, we make dreams come true by employing truck drivers, dispatchers, mechanics, and many other occupations. Consider joining our rapidly expanding team where we put quality, human dignity, and respect back into the workforce. Contact us by visiting our website at gtscarrier.com or call us at 847-754-4667. That number again, 847-754-4667.
Welcome back to Wounded But Not Broken with host Patrick Scroggin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Wounded but Not Broken. We're here with Brian Meyer. He's going to continue on with his story about his recovery process, the ups and downs. And so, Brian, we left off with, you getting out, you're driving now. And I'm sure, if you want to talk about it, the emotional roller coaster of such a drastic change in your life, such a devastating accident. It has to take a toll on you. I know it does to everybody. If you'd like to talk about that, we sure would like to hear it.
For sure. And again, just kind of like redirect that angle, man. I was fortunate, even before I was wounded, to see a lot of guys go before me and how they had a positive attitude, So a lot of the sting was taken out of, I was expecting to die over there. I wasn't expecting just to be wounded. So when I didn't die, it was kind of like it was almost a win. So, and that's one of the things that really aided in my attitude. And so I can't I don't want to, people were like, Brian, you're such a strong guy. And I was like, I had a lot of really positive role models and mentors, as well as like guardrails that I could bounce off of. You know what I'm saying? So it really set me up for success in a lot of ways. Now, where I really get sideways, I've never been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress. Everybody's always like, oh, you got post-traumatic stress. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not trying to be like some super tough, like, oh, whatever, just I'm cool. I've submitted to all of these tests and things like that. And what they've concluded is I've got really good coping skills. And once again, I attribute those coping skills to the people that came before me, because they kind of showed me the way. And but where I start to come off the rails in I would say my recovery, I have super fast recovery in some capacities, and in some ways people are like, "Ooh, man," and you're nosing into the mountain on that one based on some decisions I'm making, is post-recovery. Man, for whatever reason, I can't maintain relationships very well, so I end up going through, I'm at now 3 divorces, and I'm single, really kind of have a struggle with, in bomb disposal, you live like every day's your last. Well, when every day's not going to be your last, because it's like I'm retired and things like that, it's like, it's hard to dial back down the volume to like, oh, I guess today's going to be pretty quiet. You know what I mean? Whereas like every day in bomb disposal was like, well, I could die today. It's like, fucking hey, today was a good day. I get to go to sleep. I get to wake up tomorrow, and I get to do it over, and hopefully it works out, But now it's like, oh, I'm probably going to die of old age. Now it's like, man, I really, really did not plan for retirement. Do you know what I mean? I was like, I was pretty sure I was going to die. I'm like Lieutenant Dan in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
like, I was supposed to die on the battlefield.
I gotcha. I mean, it's you go that long on that adrenaline and that that satisfaction of fulfilling your job that you've spent most of your adult life training for, and you actually get to go use it in an environment that benefits everybody in this country. And it happens to a lot of guys, man. They come home and they're used to living on that adrenaline, and now they got the operator syndrome and all that kind of stuff, and it's a serious deal, and we have a lot of issues because of that, and it's something that gets looked over quite often. And the VA needs to buck up, and they need to fix this shit, and they need to start doing what we need them to do. And that's another reason why I wanted to do this show, is because, man, people just don't understand, like, when you live on that kind of excitement and adrenaline and fear every day of your life, and then it just stops all in one day. That is the biggest adjustment anybody can ever imagine. It's crazy.
Yeah, you're losing your perfect purpose. You know what I mean? That was my perfect purpose, and now it's like, okay, well now, that's no longer my purpose. Now what's my purpose, right? You try to start filling that with something else, and it's typically, you're not going to find something. It's got to be a complete kind of paradigm adjustment. I don't know. So,
Gotcha. Hey, Brian, really quick, we have a caller that called in that wants to say something to you. Do you mind talking to him?
No, not at all. Bring him on.
All right. We'll just wait for them to add him in.
All right, I feel myself unmuted. That's I heard that. So my name is Joe, guys. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good, Joe. How are you doing?
All right, Gunnery Sergeant. I'm going to tell you, I'll give you a hint about what era I was in. And I was telling the screener that I wanted to say hi to you. I wanted to give you my condolences for the injuries. And I wanted to tell you that you're a hero because people like you kept me from having to go and fight. Again, I'm going to give you a hint. I never had to go in country. So does that make a hint with you? Does that hint register? No, I mean it was the Vietnam.
I don't know.
It was a Vietnam era.
Got it.
It was a Vietnam era, and I had a nice, cushy job in the Air Force. But during that time, if you know the history of Vietnam, a lot of boys my age were going over to Vietnam and dying. 57,000 of us died over there. And a lot of people like yourself are dying over in Iraq and Afghanistan. So I want to say that to me personally, without people like you, even though I was in the Air Force, it was an unwritten rule that after 2 years, it was very possible that I could have been transferred over to Vietnam for some reason. So guys like you kept guys like me from being in country, from being in combat. So I want to say thanks. Again, condolences for your sacrifice. And to me, you're my hero. So that's all I wanted to say, guys.
Appreciate you.
So you can put me back on mute.
Well, hey, Joe, we really appreciate that. And but never for 1 second, do we not thank you for your service. Less than 1% of our, what is it, like 2 or 3% of the population ever serves in the military, and for anybody to stand up and do that is honorable and is a hero in my view, no matter what your job was. So we really appreciate your service. Thank you for calling in. Thanks for your words. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you too. Appreciate it. All right, guys, take care now.
Yes, sir. Have a good night. All right, Brian. So we're when did it start really going south for you as far as like depression and PTSD? I know you weren't labeled with it. I wasn't really labeled with it, but you have it, right? I mean, if you've done and seen the things that we've done and seen, I mean, it's inevitable. It's going to affect you in some way.
Man, I like to try to think that I don't have it, honestly. I definitely struggle with depression, but I feel like, and honestly, with most people that have post-traumatic stress, and I listen to a lot of these people, and I mean, there are definitely exceptions, but a lot of the people that I meet with post-traumatic stress had post-traumatic stress before they joined the military. And then they got in the military, and all of a sudden now they've got an excuse to be an asshole, So I run into a lot of those guys, honestly. Like, we talk about the VA, and I think the VA's junk, but at the same time, I'll also own the fact that the veterans don't make it very easy on the VA. We're horrible at personal management. Let's all admit it. We don't show up for appointments, and that screws over our brothers that are trying to get seen for similar health care issues. So it's like it's a dynamic and unique issue. And, I feel like the VA's got like a big government kind of like perspective, like we'll medicate this away or, we'll medicated away is pretty much their route. You know what I mean? But there's other, like I said, we talked about Wounded Warrior Outdoors. There's definitely better ways to take care of whatever issues you have. But so my issues, like I said, mostly, it's like depression. But it's kind of mild. I've never been suicidal, which a lot of guys I know struggle with suicide, and I think people are like, oh, military people have an issue with suicide. And I was like, well, you want us a little bit suicidal because, we're going to be fighting in a war, and it's just like very much could be, the last thing we do. So if you're not just a touch suicidal, you're not going to be a good war fighter. You're not going to be a good helicopter pilot, Obviously, you don't want to die, but still, it's like, obviously understand it's a possibility. So, I completely get the suicide thing. People lose their purpose. But that's not this guy. I look at it like the people in Afghanistan and Iraq that were trying to kill me would kill themselves to kill me. And now I've got an obligation to die of old age, because every day that I live, I stand in opposition to what those guys hate. You know, they hate that I'm free, and they hate that I walk around with impunity and I have amazing prosthetics. And, you know, I mean, you can have depression. I tell you what, it could be a really crappy day, but guess what? You're not in Afghanistan, and you're not in Iraq, and you live in one of, you know, the most prosperous times in human history. I don't care what the media tells you. And I mean, it's just when you really zoom out of, you know, your situation, it's pretty stinking sweet. You know what I mean? And that's coming from a guy who's missing, you know, some triple cripple. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah,
you know,
that was a very, very interesting way you put it. I mean, that's you know, I mean, I have my own purpose, and I you know, my philosophy is if I lay there and I'm depressed and I'm not making the best of my life, there's 38 of my very closest best friend brothers that would give anything to be where I'm at, because they didn't get to make it through. They're all dead. But I've never heard it put like you just put it, and that's a very interesting perspective, and you know, that's. You know, but that's the thing. You know, everybody's different. Everybody finds their purpose. Everybody finds their motivation, and you know, that's a great, and that's why this podcast is so great, because you know, guys like you get on here and you just put something in perspective for me. I mean, I never heard it like that, and that's what makes this kind of thing so important. These stories to get told, and for us to get on here and talk about the VA, of what we can do to make it better. It's not just to talk about the VA and bash them. It's just we want it to get better, and so we want to figure out what we can do to help it and to make it get better. That's the way I look at it. You can always make things better. You can always make things better, and if you're not trying, then you're not doing anybody any good. So, yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. It was just interesting that you said that. It was an interesting perspective. But yeah, so yeah, sure. So we'll. I want to say the next segment for the depression and kind of how you overcame that. So, but for this one, you know, I think what do you think your biggest obstacle was? You know, post recovery.
I mean, and that ties into the depression. It's like finding his purpose again. You know what I mean? Like, I had perfect purpose as a bomb tech, and now it's like, now what do I do? You know what I mean? And it's not like I'm an old guy. And like I said, I'm in good shape. I'm not on any medication, you know, and it's like, I've got a long life ahead of me. In the last 10 years, like, I don't think I've done anything, you know, that's worth, I mean, any kind of, I haven't done anything. You know, and that gets heavy, you know, where it's like you're wasting your time, and you kind of get lost in this little, like, I don't know, you just get kind of a little bit lost in time, you know. I
hear you.
Man, purpose. I had a really rough time this past year. I've been fired. I resigned basically to prevent being fired, and then I got fired again. Just trying to sort of re-enter the job market, and just really kind of like smashing my face off of those experiences, with the learning. You know, learning was occurring, but extremely painful, and you know, just sort of like, okay, well now, you know, let's not do that again. You know, that stove is hot. You know, we've touched it 3 times, so
yeah.
You know, where's my undomesticated bomb tech, you know, person that I am? Where can I reapply this? And it may just be one of those things to where I have to accept the fact that I can't reapply it, and you know, I just gotta go stock some shelves somewhere, you know. So.
Gotcha. All right. Hey, we're going to take another quick break here. A word from our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to hear this. I mean, there's so much more to Brian's story, but you know, we only have an hour, so we're just going to kind of fast forward to some things that I think that will help people. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Put your weapon next to mine. Put your weapon next to mine.
You're listening to Wounded but Not Broken with host Patrick Scroggin. We will be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Hey, right on down the line. Come on over. Come on over. What's not over? What's not over?
Dallas Corporation and Dallas Logistics, a proud supporter of the Veterans Broadcast Network for over 19 years. High-quality printing services and warehouse distribution has been our hallmark since 1985, serving Fortune 100 companies for over 35 years. Check us out at www.dallascorp.com.
My father was the best truck driver I've ever known in my life. Like a family tradition.
I'm a truck driver myself. I drove around the state with my cat.
To be the truck driver, you not just only see where you go, you see the world in the larger perspective.
This is a really good time to be in the trucking industry. The dispatchers get good loads for them. The equipment is very new, and then it's very reliable.
At GTS Transportation, we make dreams come true by employing truck drivers, dispatchers, mechanics, and many other occupations. Consider joining our rapidly expanding team where we put quality, human dignity, and respect back into the workforce. Contact us by visiting our website at gtscarrier.com or call us at 847-754-4667. That number again, 847-754-4667.
Welcome back to Wounded But Not Broken with host Patrick Scroggin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We're going to get right into this because we kind of went a little bit long on the last one. So, Brian, let's talk about your depression and finding your purpose again.
Yeah, man, that's kind of where I'm at today. After COVID hit, I was in school. I got back out of school because I didn't want to deal with the distance learning, just not something that's conducive to my focus. Like, I just can't do it. Like, I probably can do it, I just won't do it, I guess is the right way to say it. So I like going to class. I like having to sit in front of a person and whatnot. And when that was taken away, I was like, oof, my grades are going to start to suffer. And so now that school's pretty much back on here, so I tried that stuff out in California, with a couple of those companies, and really kind of, like, once again, not working out. So I moved back to Niceville, Florida, where once again I will go back to school, basically. And, it's kind of where I'm at now. And then, hunting's my church. So you get opportunities through a variety of different organizations to go hunting, and it's like it kind of works out every time. Get a little bit too much inside my head or whatever. Hunting trip shows up, and it's a great outlet. So that's pretty much where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important. Everybody has to find their healing process, and for yours and I's are very similar as to I love being outdoors, I love pushing myself, I love hunting, but I'm a big conservationist, and I always have been my entire life, and it's so therapeutic just to get out there and breathe that fresh air and experience nature and sleep under the stars and the northern lights, and it's just something you can't explain. It just kind of puts everything into perspective. It makes you look back at everything that you've been through and everything that you did and signed up for, and it makes it worth it. And it's just it's such a therapeutic thing, like you said, and I'm so glad that you found that, because a lot of guys don't get to find it, and they don't. But it's not from a lot of guys don't look for it. They just kind of want to sit there and sulk and give up. And I can't commend you enough for everything that you've been through. There's so much more that you've been through that we didn't talk about here, and we could do a whole nother episode, I know. But I'm telling you, dude, I respect the hell out of you, and I'm proud of you, and I know you're going to keep killing it, and you're going to overcome everything, and I'm honored to be your friend.
Word, man. Likewise. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man. I really thank you for taking your time to do this tonight. I hopefully you touched a lot of people, and I think we need to work up another show and get like you and Matt or get a couple of us on here and talk about some of these things that that bring us together and talk about some of the great nonprofits and how to do your research on nonprofits, because just as many good ones, there's that many or more bad ones, and so. I don't like seeing people getting taken advantage of, but yeah, man. Thanks for coming on, dude. That was I really appreciate it.
Work, man. Appreciate you, man. Thanks again.
All right, brother. And for all the listeners, I want to end this podcast tonight. If you've listened to my shows or if you've went back and listened to the shows, again, there is a common message. All these guys and gals give so much, and the giving doesn't stop when they get hurt. It actually increases. People give back. Brian's a pretty humble guy. I've been on some trips with some nonprofits, volunteering my time, and Brian does that too. He's a mentor for a lot of guys that are in very dark places, and he helps them out of it. I've seen it, and it's so inspiring to see these guys continue on fighting the good fight, and that's what makes our country so great. But I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to thank Joe for calling in. We really appreciate it. And I hope you all have a great week, and we'll see you next Monday night. We're out.
Wounded but not broken, with host Patrick Scroggin. As a U.S. Army attack helicopter pilot deployed in Iraq, Patrick faced a devastating crash, which resulted in him dying, losing a leg, and a slew of broken bones. Patrick's story of rehabilitation has helped others to overcome their own obstacles. Each week, Patrick recounts stories of inspiration and interviews guests who have overcome remarkable obstacles. This is Wounded but Not Broken, with your host, Patrick Scroggin.
Attention, looking for semi-drivers nationwide. GTS Transportation of Burr Ridge, Illinois is looking to hire or partner with experienced CDL holders in every state. If you are going to drive, why not drive for the best? Whether you are driving solo, as a team, or as an owner-operator, GTS is looking to add you to their rapidly growing company. Become part of one of the most respected, driver-friendly, and successful transportation companies in America, where drivers are treated as royalty. Contact us at gtscarrier.com. Again, gtscarrier.com. Or call us at 847-754-4667. That number again, 847-754-4667. We would love to help you, which in turn helps everyone. GTS is an equal opportunity employer.
Dallas Corporation and Dallas Logistics, a proud supporter of the Veterans Broadcast Network for over 19 years. High-quality printing services and warehouse distribution has been our hallmark since 1985, serving Fortune 100 companies for over 35 years. Check us out at www.dallascorp.com.